What is going on, everybody? My name's Chris. Welcome to Bourbinsane. We're back today with episode number 5 in my new series talking about bourbon trail distilleries. Today we are taking a visit to Four Roses Distillery. Four Roses is a very cool distillery, and they have some awesome whiskey expressions. They're located in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Now they actually have a couple different locations. So their main distillery is in Lawrenceburg, and then over by Jim Beam in the Claremont area, Claremont, Kentucky, they have their bottling facility. So actually 2 different locations. You can take tours at both places. Where I went was just to the distillery and did the distillery tour there. So a very cool place. Four Roses Distillery definitely has Spanish influence. So just taking a look at the architecture, the buildings, the gift shop, everything. It was all like, it definitely seemed like it was Spanish themed, I guess, if you will. And when they talk about in the tour, they kind of go into that a little bit and how, where they got the design and things like that for. That's all part of the tour as well. So you can go check that out and find out for yourself that history. But being the kind of person I am, I enjoyed seeing all the history and the buildings, what they were like. It's completely different than any of the other distilleries on the Bourbon Trail, at least as far as architecture goes and how the buildings are laid out. So I thought that was really cool. If you can appreciate that kind of stuff, it's going to be a cool place for you. As far as the actual tour goes itself, it was about an hour-long tour. Kind of just your basic, normal tour that you would see at almost any distillery, honestly. We started out going into this room where we watched a quick video, which kind of just talked about Four Roses, as I mentioned, the history. Brent Elliott was on there talking a little bit. Brent Elliott's their master distiller, for those who don't know. And just talked about Four Roses, what goes into their whiskey, the different recipes. So of course they have the 5 yeast strains, 2 different mash bills, gives them 10 different options to make pretty much any whiskey they want that way. So very cool as far as variety goes for Four Roses. After the video, we moved down to the actual distilling area. I would honestly describe this distillery as kind of seeming old school, if you will. A little bit of the, some of the stuff inside the actual distillery portion that we got to see, it seemed quite dated. Some of the signs that were in there, they had these mini structures, I guess, that like small scale structures that show some of the stuff throughout the distillery, throughout the grounds. And it all seemed kind of just, like I said, kind of old school, if you will. Like they hadn't updated in a while. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't change what works, right? If it's working, stick with it. Sure, that's fine. As far as tours go, though, I wasn't super interested, I guess. Like, it didn't pique my interest like some others do. As I mentioned, I'm a huge fan of Four Roses whiskeys and their bourbons. I think they're doing incredible stuff with their whiskeys. The tour, I was a little bit underwhelmed with. After we were in the actual distillery itself, we wrapped things up, kind of walked back up to the main gift shop area, and they have a whole tasting area and tasting room there. We did get to try all their main expressions. So we tried a single barrel, the regular Four Roses yellow label, the base label, small batch, and the small batch select. So that was nice. We got to try 4. Depending on the time of year, you might get to try something more limited. I don't know if they would ever pull out like the limited edition that just came out here. I don't know if they'd ever pull that out for a normal tour and tasting. But at least we got to try the small batch select. And if a lot of you, can't get that in your state, I know in Michigan it doesn't come up here. So if you're down in Kentucky, you can find it pretty much anywhere. But as far as like Michigan, some other states, it's not distributed there. So it was nice to be able to try that again too. A very nice tasting. You did get to keep your Four Roses glass at the end. And that was also a cool perk. I love getting free stuff at the end of a tour. It's not really free, I guess. You pay for the tour, but overall, it was not a bad experience at Four Roses. I just think if you have such limited time in Kentucky, say only 2 days or so, I might go towards a different tour at a different distillery that maybe I liked a little bit more. Some that I talked about. I thought Jim Beam had a great tour. Wild Turkey is actually over by Four Roses as well, and they put on a great tour as well. So if you go to Four Roses, you won't be disappointed. That's for sure. I just think elsewhere, you might find more what you're looking for. As far as the gift shop goes at Four Roses, pretty standard, pretty basic. Nothing too limited was really in the gift shop. Rumor has it, and I talked to the tour guide about this, they said about 3 times a year they will put out single barrel limited gift shop only releases. So there was like a Brent Elliott Select that had come through a couple months back. I think she said when I was there at the time. They had a whole bunch of the Four Roses Small Batch Select there. That was kind of the big thing they were pushing at the time. Some parts of the country, it's actually getting hard to find the normal single barrel. So they had plenty of that as well. And I asked if, hey, because I know Jim Beam with their Knob Creek single barrel reserve that they have in the distillery gift shop, it's supposedly picked by the employees. So it's supposedly going to be a better barrel. I asked if it was the same case with the single barrels, and she didn't really know the answer. She didn't think so. She thought it was just kind of a normal OBSV single barrel that they use, nothing special, nothing picked by anyone at the distillery. That would be kind of a nice selling point. I would be more inclined myself to pick it up if that was the case. I thought about it a lot harder at Jim Beam when he told me that. So a little bit disappointed by that. I wish they would do something. That's something they could do easily enough to draw people to the distillery, if nothing else. But if you're at Kentucky during a time where there are going to be these limited releases, they just released their 2019 limited edition Four Roses Small Batch. That was a distillery-only release pretty much. They distribute throughout the country, but the day it was released at the distillery, so there are people out there lining up. They will do some releases like that, but it's not going to be stuff that just pops up randomly. You kind of have to know when stuff's going to be released to the distillery, and that's the time you should go kind of hang out and get in line for stuff. The one great thing about the distillery tour at Four Roses is it's only $10. So you get an hour tour for $10. You get to try 4 samples at the end. Great value. As I mentioned, the tour itself's a little bit dated, but you get whiskey at the end, you get a glass to keep, and $10, you can't go wrong with $10. They do also offer just a tasting. So if you want to just go try all 4 samples, you could do that. It's only $7. That's cheaper than getting a pour of Four Roses at a bar, pretty much any bar. So worth doing if you're out there. If you're in the area, you won't be disappointed if you go to Four Roses. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of my Bourbon Trail Distillery series. Let me know down in the comment section below. Have you ever been to Four Roses? What do you think of the tour? Compared to some of the other distilleries on the trail at least. Also, let me know what is your favorite Four Roses product. I've got a lot of favorite Four Roses, a couple recipes of their single barrel that are really good. So I want to hear what you guys have to say. But I appreciate y'all hanging out today. Thanks for joining me. Stay insane, everyone.